Hello everyone and welcome to the homework review for Year 4, Block 1, Week 4. This is of course the verbal reasoning homework review and we're going to be running through the verbal reasoning homework. So here it is, we've got the You Must, which is the pages 12 and 13 in the CGP online, so the CGP Green Book. We'll see that a picture of that in a second. And then we'll also be running through the Discover Verbal Reasoning book, pages 45, 52. We'll be doing it in this order. Today is very much focused on compound words. So this is the first book that we're looking at, the Green CGP book, 8 to 9, making sure we've selected the right one. And if you turn to page 12, it should look like this. So, of course, if you've not started yet and you just want a quick tip, remember, of course, compound words are essentially where you take two correctly spelt words and create a new, also correctly spelt word. One thing that's worth noting, it's always worth just reading the instructions carefully. In this case, it says underline the word that can be put after the word in capitals. It's entirely possible that you might find ones that say put the word before, or potentially where they don't even tell you if it's before or after, and you have to try it both ways. So it's always just worth checking for a bit of advice to see. So in this case, obviously, you've got air, which is a word, and craft, which is a word, which spells an entirely new word, aircraft, which of course would be something like a plane, for example. The thing I think to look for with these, of course, is the spelling. That's the number one thing. But also don't get put off. So if I look at this first example, I can see butter and spread. Well, butter and spread, obviously, they have something to do with each other. You could even say they're sort of kind of synonyms. A butter is a type of spread. But don't be put off. Make sure you're clear about what you're doing. It has to be a brand new word and it has to be only a singular word. So even if the two words make sense following each other sequentially, it has to be a single word. So looking at number one, I can see here we've certainly got the answer of butter and fly, making the word butterfly, as in the insect with the beautiful wings. Dough and nut, spelling donut. Again, that's a nice snack. This is the sort of the thing you would bite with. It has a hole in the middle. We've got background. You might fade into the background. We actually have a nice picture here in the background of sort of rolling hills in the background. It's quite sweet. A waterfall is something that you would maybe go and visit on holidays. A waterfall is where you have a river going off of some kind of drop, so waterfall. If you overlook something, it means either you don't notice it or you don't consider it. So it's important when you're searching things not to overlook the obvious hiding places, for example. That would be using overlook in a sentence. In here, we've got tiptoe. If you tiptoe around the place, it means you to creep or sneak around. Clockwise is a great word, and what we're talking a lot about in the non-verbal. Obviously, you have clockwise, which is this direction of rotation, and also another one to keep that for would be anti-clockwise, going in the opposite direction. If you're ever not sure about whether it's clockwise or not, you can always either look at a physical clock or imagine one starting with 12, going 1, 2, 3 round. That's why we call this clockwise, because it's in the direction that a clock goes round. We've then got for number 8 an update. Someone may ask for an update as to how you're getting on. So if you're doing the homework and mum and dad pops in and asks for an update, you can say, doing well, getting there, halfway through. It's kind of to inform people of how you're getting on. Great word here, whoever. Whoever I need to help is someone maybe who knows what to do, or whoever and wherever are similar words. Number 10. Oh, this is a good one. Nowhere. I'm going nowhere. Staying in for the weekend, for example, means you're not going any place in particular. Number 11. You wouldn't want to go without. Without kind of means not having any. So if I was without dessert, for example, it means I haven't got any dessert. I'm very sad. A chestnut. There was actually one of these questions, I think, from last week in the lesson about the name of the tree that produces chestnuts. So obviously the chestnut tree, and we also talked about how conkers come from horse chestnuts. So that's an example of where that word may have come up before. I think number 13 is a bit tricky, but perhaps useful they've got this picture here, because arm and hour may not obviously at once become armour. And that's something to look out for when the sound of the two words together is not immediately the same. So arm and hour becoming armour, the kind of thing that this person's wearing in the picture. 14, you've got button. And button, again, is another example of a tricky one, because obviously the two T's are necessary to spell button correctly, B-U-T-T-O-N, but it can be hard to sort of spot that overlap. And 15, finally, if a boat turns upside down, it capsizes. So if you capsize, it's when everything flips around. So obviously for this, you've done 3 sections of 15, so do give yourself a score out of 15. And I would say if you're sort of 11 or above, 12 or above, that's kind of in the green category. Yeah, maybe 12 or above, I would say, for these, because it may well have been important to revisit them. And then anything I would say over 8 gets you in the orange category, so 8 out of 15 for the orange, and anything less will obviously be red. On now to some more compound words, but really important that we notice they now go in front, and this is what I mean. They were very easy to sort of muddle these around. So in this case, obviously, it's not ache head, but it's headache, and that can be just a bit of a challenge. One thing that's certainly a good idea when doing these is just to sound the options out. So for example, with this one, I might say plum fruit, apple fruit, pear fruit, and finally grapefruit. And grapefruit is the answer because it's only one word. I'm certainly not saying that apples aren't fruit, but we don't call them apple fruit. We don't call it a pear fruit. We just say, can I have an apple? Can I have a pear? But if you wanted some grapefruit, you would have to say, please may I have some grapefruit? Number 2 is another nice one where the picture was a bit of a clue. We have a raspberry, which is spelt raspberry, but raspberry is how we would say it. This one here. Number 3, we've got if you wanted to have tea and it was a bit of a special occasion, you weren't just making it using a tea bag, you might use a teapot. So if you're making tea for multiple people, you'd use a teapot. When it's time to go to bed, it is bedtime. Everyone has a bedtime, different times. Number 5, if you stand on your hands, you're doing a handstand. It's very impressive when people can wander around on their hands, and all these gymnastics people showing amazing things. Number 6, before you come in, especially from outside, you'll quite often wipe your feet on something at the front door, and that is a doormat. Let's play where you sort of get any leaves or mud off your things before stepping inside to take your shoes off, perhaps. Number 7, a bit of decoration for your ear would be an earring. An earring. Number 8, in the first meal you have in your day is when you stop fasting, and it's when you break your fast. And of course we call that breakfast. And again, another example where you break and fast, you have to say it a few times, break, fast, breakfast, but you can hopefully see where the two words link together. If something is within, it means it's inside of something. So you might need to look within the box, for example, it means look inside. In this one, we've got, good word. Pack and age actually makes package. So you may order something from Amazon and that you get a delivery of a package. The correct, or I should say the full name for if you're walking along a path is kind of like a contraction, a shortened version. The full word would be a footpath, to be specific. So when you're, for example, walking down the road, perhaps the cars would go in the road in the centre, and on the side there may be a footpath for you to walk on. Number 12, we've got, this one, an animal, it's a pet that you may have, it's a goldfish. I know some people keep goldfish at home, that's very exciting. This next one is a sport, it's a type of ball, and volleyball is the name of the sport. Whereas catch ball, may make sense, or bounce ball, those could be actions, they're not official names, they're not nouns, they're not sports. And so although it may make sense, volleyball is definitely the better answer. For 14, if something is avoidable, avoidable, it means something you can avoid, it's something you can get out of the way. So for example, if you check on Google Maps before driving somewhere, you may find out that a traffic jam is avoidable. That would be a good use of a sentence. And finally, if something is pleasing, it makes you happy. Right guys, I think the same as before, I would say for these you're looking for sort of 12 or 13 plus to get in that confidence zone, and 8 or so plus to get in the amber zone. Of course, remember that you are averaging across the two, so I would take the total of 2 and sort of make a decision. Are you secure? Are you getting most of these correct? Or is it the kind of thing that you could think is worth coming back to? And that, I think, really is the best way of summarising the purpose of these different stickers. Green means you don't really need to come back and look at these, certainly not anytime soon. Amber means you should be looking back, trying these questions again at some point, maybe in the upcoming half term. And red is you should definitely be doing these again, probably this week or next, to give yourself another try because you now understand what's going on. And of course, the blue sticker means it just needs to be completed. Moving on now, we can look at our Discover Verbal Reasoning book. This is the nice big yellow one. And just make things slightly differently here, I've just got the answers right at the start. So some people found these a little harder to find. So if you wanted the answer to the first section, they are here. But otherwise, we're going to talk them through now as a group. So this is the ones that you'll get on about page 46 or so. And we're going to start with the first 5. So for each of these, I'll just read the instructions to make sure. Obviously, it said you had about 10 minutes. But one thing I would say, if you did need a little bit longer before I also mark these, let's say you're not yet at the stage of the course where you should be timing yourself, and it's totally okay if you do need a bit longer than 10 minutes to try and answer these questions. Please do pause the video, take the time you need, and then come back and we'll go through them afterwards once everyone is completely ready. I think that's by far the more sensible way to do it. And so don't for a second think you can't continue. In this case, you need to select from each word a pair of words that makes a compound word. I think the best way to do that is just an example. So looking here, we have, for example, thank and less spelling thankless. And if a task is thankless, it's one where you don't get recognised or praised for it. So it's important to make sure people in life who do things for you, they don't feel like they're doing thankless tasks. And you should do that by thanking them. Right, so number 2, if something is an outrage, it's like terribly aggravating, terribly annoying. If it's absolutely outrageous, it kind of means it's terrible. Number 3, if you are feeling downcast, it means you are feeling sad. For number 4, if you are the opposite of outside, would be inside. Number 5. In your house, if you've got 2 floors and you don't live in a bungalow, you almost certainly have a staircase. On to the next page. Number 6, this is again another type of fruit, a pineapple. A pineapple is one word. Number 7, in order to go on holiday, you need to show your passport to prove who you are. Number 8, similar to yourself, if you're talking about a lady, you would say herself. So you might say she fell over and accidentally hurt herself. That would be an example. Number 9, we have, if you for example, moles, they dig and live underground. And number 10, if you hurt something, you potentially damage it. So hopefully that's clear. If not, luckily there are a few more. So again, here's an opportunity if you would like to just pause the video, give these a try if you felt like you needed a little bit more time. These are slightly harder words, so hopefully it's all going well. Otherwise, again, let's jump into it. So here come the answers. Hopefully we are all ready and ready to go. So we've got, for the first one, this is a place where you would grow plants, especially over the winter where it's not as sunny outside. We call that a greenhouse. That's normally sort of a glass building that lets lots of light get in and essentially keeps the plants a bit warmer than it would otherwise be if it was just outside, especially important in England where the weather can be a bit cold. If someone has been bit, you would say they have been bitten, B-I-T-T-E-N. So for example, say my dad got bitten by a mosquito and he was itching at it, for example. That's something that can happen. This one, of course, you can have hardwood floors, you can have concrete floors, or at home, it's certainly nice and comfortable, you can have carpet on the floor. Nice and soft. Number 4. This is kind of another name for a necklace, a bit more fancy. You would call it a pendant. So a pendant is it's like a necklace really with sort of something at the end of the chain. Quite often in pendants you'll have little photographs of things. They sort of open up to reveal what's inside. It's quite sweet, a pendant. Number 5, this one's quite hard. It's something that you would put in a printer when it runs out of ink, a cartridge. So you might replace a new cartridge. Actually, if you have a nice fountain pen, or you've ever seen a fountain pen, they will often have ink cartridges in them as well. They're sort of things that store ink in them. Number 6, you might choose to do a different option, so you may choose to do something instead. You would say, so for example, you had 2 options on holiday, you might choose to go, you might have planned to have a picnic, but then because of the weather, you decided to go and do an indoor activity like the cinema instead. That would be an example of using it. Number 7, if you, for example, were to go somewhere and take a shortcut, you may go down a narrow passage. Normally there are passages sort of between 2 buildings. for example. Number 8, this one's a hard one to spot, I think. This took me a little while. But if you would rather do something, it means you have a preference. So some people might rather do the cinema, or some people might rather go, in an example earlier, on a picnic. You may have a sort of a choice or a preference. You say, I would rather do this than that. This next one's quite a sweet one. Of course, it's not really the weather for it as much anymore, but over the summer you may have gone to the seaside, which is kind of another name for the beach. Number 10, finally, the opposite of walking forward is, of course, to go backward or backwards. Right, everyone, not as long today in terms of the video, but I hope that was useful. I think with these, you mustn't beat yourself up if you didn't spot them. These words, now that you know about what compound words are, I'm sure you'll start to notice them more and more coming up in life. And whenever you do come across compound words, it's just worth clocking them and realising, because these ones can be sort of hard to spot. And I think especially that skill of saying them out loud is really important. So certainly as you're going through these, I would go mountain lane, mountain path, mountain ridge, high lane, high path, high ridge, cart lane, cart path, cartridge. And it's that skill, that methodical way of going through and saying all the words that's going to give you the skills. But for now, I think just recognising these is a really good start. Right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope that was useful, and we'll see you again soon. All the best for now. Bye-bye.